Welcome to this week's MVP podcast, episode 24.
24.
24. We have Arch Greaves here. Awesome, fascinating guy. He is a real estate investor, but he's not a real estate investor of like what we've had in the past shows.
He's not full time.
He is a casual, and he loves being casual.
Yeah.
And he has his full-time job,
Which ties in very well to real estate.
yeah, and he does talk about where that does fall into the whole realm of real estate. So if you are a real estate investor, he's got a little pro tip. Well, he's got a few tips.
He's got a lot.
And he's got history lessons all through the show.
It's been an amazing show.
So he's a fascinating guy. He talks about a little bit about all of his deals, talks about kind of the development within his real estate career. I'll still call it a career, even though he is very passive, and he loves being passive with it. But if you're on the fringe of can you do real estate or can you not, listen to the show as proof that you can. You don't need to go 100 miles an hour from the get-go. You can take it at your own pace, and you can go within your comfort zone and be happy.
Yeah.
So let's start the show.
But yeah, so my name's Arch Grieve, and I'm a real estate investor, I guess you would say, and that's a side job, I guess I would call it. I'm a full-time professional mediator. I work for the city of Dayton as a mediator, and then I also do some things in my spare time, including I'm the chair of the Dayton Sister City Committee. And then another thing that I like to do is YouTubing. And so I've got a YouTube channel called My Neck of the Woods, where I'm kind of working on some projects like building a little tiny house office and a little tiny house cabin. So that's a little bit about me.
Well, first, I want to ask you where your sister city is.
Well, we actually have 6 sister cities, and so let's see if I can remember them all. We've got Augsburg, Germany. We've got Oiso, Japan. We've got Monrovia, Liberia.
Nice.
Cologne, Israel. Rushmore, England.
Okay.
And Sarajevo in Bosnia-Herzegovina.
You named them all. That's amazing.
I was counting.
We may have to edit this out, but what was it, a sister city?
Yeah. Don't you know? Like, we
No.
have a sister city in Germany. In Okanwalk.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sister Cities was actually started by President Eisenhower after World War II to try to help people, that had been through the horrors of World War II, to try to start to come together through cultural exchanges. And he really believed in person-to-person diplomacy, and so that's what citizen diplomacy, that's what it's all about. So we try to, connect with people in other countries. I've had the really great privilege of being able to go to 2 of our sister cities. I've been to Sarajevo in Bosnia-Herzegovina, and I've been to Rushmore, England.
Wow. That's really cool. I never knew the history behind sister cities. I just knew that they actually existed and that there was some want or need to, share cultural experiences between the 2 cities. It's kind of like a foreign exchange program, but for anybody and, adults specifically.
Absolutely, yeah. And actually, we do stuff with students as well. So we have a couple student exchange programs. I've actually been lucky enough to help take some students over to Bosnia-Herzegovina multiple times.
That's
and then
awesome.
actually host students. Yeah, so it's been a lot of fun.
Sounds cool. I'm super intrigued. I wish I had room in my house to actually host a student here, because I totally would.
Yeah, there you go.
I just learned something new. I had no idea. I know what I'm reading tonight. I'm going to
Hey, that's
YouTube
great.
all of that.
That's so cool.
Wow. All right. President Eisenhower.
Find out where our sister city is, and then schedule a trip.
That I might have to. Give me a reason to travel.
There you go.
I don't travel much. Within an hour and a half of my house, and that's about it.
Well, no one does these days, so I understand.
Right?
That's true. So I'm not missing out.
No.
Not behind the 8 ball.
Anyway, can you tell us a little bit about your tiny home? I think we're both kind of chomping at the bit, wanting to hear about this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sure, yeah. so I've always really loved tiny homes, and I've kind of been in love with them. For ever since actually I started watching. I just happened to like catch this episode of Oprah where she was like interviewing people who had tiny homes, and then I read about like tiny home communities, and I just always have been fascinated, like for probably a decade, with tiny homes, and I've always wanted to build one, and so I'm starting super small, and I even, I hesitate sometimes to call it a tiny home. Sometimes people call them relax shacks, but basically I built, I built a tiny house office first back in my backyard. During the pandemic, I was put on a temporary emergency leave, and so I had a bunch of time on my hands, and so I put this little tiny house office together, and then I thought, I think I could do this again, and my brother and I own an Airbnb down in southern Ohio, and I thought, it'd be really fun to do it out of repurposed materials, and so I started collecting a bunch of repurposed materials and kind of recreated the tiny house office, but as a little tiny house cabin with a wood burning stove and everything. And it sleeps two people. It's got some bunk beds, and I'm trying. It's a work in progress. So I've just built the little cabin, and I want to build some other stuff to go around it. Maybe an outhouse, maybe area. So it could be a lot.
That's awesome. I am totally intrigued with the tiny homes, and I would love to build one, except for the fact that I basically live in a tiny home. Like, my house is very petite. It's like 700 square feet, so it's not far off from a tiny home. Maybe 2 tiny homes combined.
And 2, our city doesn't allow them.
They don't?
No, because when I was building my house, I wanted to put an ADU in the back, which is an accessory dwelling unit. Okay. So basically, I was going to put in, or like an in-law suite, basically. In the backyard, and just have that be like, have a couple beds, like something where people could stay. 3 little boys at home, they would have fun with it. Shot down immediately. So like the tiny home thing, because I was looking into tiny homes like crazy. They can make them out of shipping containers,
I've seen them.
like reuse all this stuff, and I was like, cool, I can do it that way. And then the city said they don't allow them. And Airbnbs. Reason? So you do 2 things that I'm fascinated that I cannot do.
What was their reason?
They just don't. It's just a thing that they don't do.
They just refuse.
Yeah.
That's a bummer.
I know. And I was thinking about all the possibilities on all the properties to put like little ADUs on them, and this area doesn't do it. And it's hard to find in Waukesha County.
We're not in the cool kids.
I know, which is why I'm fascinated with the tiny home. So did you build this as like a prefab and you put it up and you built the interior, or did you literally pour the slab and build it all from scratch?
Well, so it's a very, when I say tiny, this is 8 foot by 8 foot. So,
yeah.
That's, it's super small. What I did for both of them is a little bit different. So there's already a lab here in the one in Dayton. So I was actually able to just put it on top of it. Like the previous owners had just kind of put like a little dining area. And so it was already poured. And so
that's cool.
I literally just put it on top of that. And it's not tied down or anything like that. And I recently put solar on it, so I've got some solar power out here, so that's cool. And then I've got a heater for this one, and then for the other one that's down in southern Ohio, it's in Ripley, Ohio, is where I have the Airbnb, and that's where I put the other tiny house cabin, is what I call it, and that's just on cinder blocks is all.
Really? That's awesome. And I want to talk more on the Airbnb, and I don't want to lose my thought, but with the tiny home, is that something that just came as you were interested in it, you started to build it, or where in your portfolio in terms of your rentals and your Airbnbs did this come? Like, how did that all fit in with your real estate career?
Well, it was more so the one that I built in my backyard was more because the pandemic hit and I had some time on my hands and I wanted a place where I could work from home, so I spend like most of my time out here because I spend most of my day working out here. And then I spent a lot of time relaxing out here too. But so it was really mostly for me. The other one was down in southern Ohio. I rent it out to hunters. And so I built the cabin in a place that can be a place where you can actually stay in the woods overnight, and then you can wake up and you can hunt from the cabin, basically. So,
Smart.
that's actually what I did this last year. So it was a lot of fun.
My husband and his father, and I don't know, their cousins or something, own a piece of hunting land up in Minnesota, and I feel like that could be a really good idea for them up there too, because he was telling me their whatever hunting shack or whatever is basically falling apart or just not up to snuff. So that could be really cool for them up there.
Sorry, you go. Sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. I was just saying, I mean, this is super. I did this thing for a very small amount of money. This is the kind of thing anyone can do, I think, and I guess that would be my big message, is to start small. I would love to build something that's more involved, and I was inspired by a friend of mine. He has a YouTube channel called A Cabin in 50 Acres, and he's building like an awesome cabin. I don't know exactly how many square feet it is, but it's a tiny house cabin basically, and I mean, it's amazing. He's got it completely off grid, and he's done a YouTube channel about it, and has quite a few people following, and who are into the whole tiny house movement, and who want to see that, see that kind of thing, I guess.
I have so much stuff to watch tonight and over the weekend. The cool thing is those solar panels. I've been looking into those, and there's companies out there that they install them for free, and then basically whatever your electrical bill is for the last few months, whatever that difference is of what you save in solar, you just pay them, and you keep doing that until it's paid off, and then you're basically energy free.
That's a great idea.
Right, like no money down. Is that what they do in Ohio?
I do know that there are programs like that. I did try to check that out from my house, and unfortunately they said our electricity bills weren't high enough for it to be cost. So we didn't end up doing it, unfortunately, because I was really excited about that.
Yeah, and that's what got me interested. I don't even know if I would qualify, but I'm looking into it. We'll see.
Totally should. I mean, if this was going to be our forever house, I would too, but it's not.
Yeah.
I can't live in 740 square feet forever. I need a little bit more.
I understand.
It will come.
One day.
So what got you as a mediator into real estate? What was that moment that you got either presented property or just, hey, I want to try this. This seems cool?
Well, I should say I wasn't actually a mediator at the time. I was actually a teacher when I started doing real estate, and
I'm going to guess history.
I'm sorry?
I'm going to guess history teacher.
You were right.
He pulled out Eisenhower and background of that whole thing. That's the only thing I have.
You're talking to a fellow nerd here, too.
Awesome. That's great.
Guilty.
I love that. But yeah, I was a social studies teacher, and I, which includes actually, economics and things. And so I've always kind of been into investing, and I was initially more interested in stocks and things. And then I kind of got less interested in that and became more interested in real estate. And one of the neighborhoods here in Dayton just seemed like it was really up and coming. And I decided that I really wanted to invest, and it was kind of funny because we had some good friends who were looking for a place, and they wanted to just rent because they didn't think they were going to be there for that long. And so I said, well, maybe we can kind of shop together for something and find something we both like. And, it actually ended up being a great, it worked out really well, which I don't know that I would always recommend to people to, rent to your friends. But in this situation, it turned out okay, thankfully. So that was kind of how I got into it.
That's cool. Yeah, it could get sticky with either family or friends renting from you, because we've talked in previous shows, like, it is a business, but you are dealing with people, and that gray area could get real sticky.
I've tried working with husbands in the past. Did not work. Did not work at all.
Understand.
But it's very cool that you can go house hunting when you know you have a tenant.
Right. That's true.
It really eases the tension. And how long did they end up staying?
I think it was about 5 years, really.
Dang.
And it was really cool. They ended up, getting married during that time and everything. So the house was really important to them, and they have their own place now. But yeah, it was really neat that it was a cool place for them to live for a while. And then it's really, I kind of debate whether or not I want to keep it or sell it, because the neighborhood is really kind of done. There's a lot that's happened in the neighborhood in that period of time, and there's been a lot of real human capital, I guess, invested in the community, and people have really taken seriously kind of the idea that they live in a neighborhood that they want to take care of. So it's been really good.
Yeah, that's great to hear. You love to hear that in your investment communities.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Heck, I'd like to hear that in any community.
That's true.
Yeah, exactly.
So with that, you had the one property that you still have. Do you have any other like long-term rentals, or just the Airbnb that you mentioned before?
So I do have a couple other long-term rentals. One is actually a home that we used to live in Xenia, Ohio, which is kind of like 20 minutes outside of Dayton, which is my hometown. That's where I grew up. That's where I bought my first home before I moved to Dayton. And we lived there for probably 10 years. And then right around the time when we got this rental property in Dayton, that was in that neighborhood I was talking about, which is St. Anne's Hill is the name of the neighborhood. We also decided that we wanted to move to Dayton as well, because we were going there all the time to hang out with friends, and we just really liked it a lot. So we wanted to get to Dayton, and so I didn't really want to sell the house. I wanted to go ahead and turn it into a rental property and kind of expand the portfolio a little bit. So we still have that property, and it's been a good return on investment as well. And then I just purchased a 4-unit rental property recently as well.
All right, making the jump into 4-unit.
Yeah, which is a bigger jump than I realized.
What are some of the things that you came across that were like a little bit different, or like the learning curve on it?
Well, so I rent for the most part to families who are moving in, and they are planning on just taking care of the yard and things like that. And then when you have a 4-unit property, you realize, when it's snowing outside, you're responsible for like shoveling and salt and mowing the yard and things like that, that you don't necessarily think about. So I actually it got to be more than I realized it was going to be. And so I actually contracted with a property management company, and I'm paying them a price per unit for managing the property for me, and that's been working out pretty well.
Yeah, that was actually my next question. With all these properties and the Airbnbs, do you self-manage all of that on top of your full-time job, or do you, parcel that out? So in Airbnbs have a lot more work because there's a lot more turnover. Does that property management company handle both?
No, I'm still handling the Airbnb actually, and it's been I've gotten it to a point where I think it's kind of it's managing itself for the most part. I've got a person who does the cleaning there and takes care of the yard. And then, it's a small community, so there's always someone I can call to, help me out in a pinch if I can't get down there, because it is 2 hours away from where I live. I'm in Dayton. I'm in Dayton, Ohio, and it's down in Ripley, Ohio, which is right along the Ohio River. So it is a challenge, but I do love going down there all the time. So that's where that's where the tiny house cabin is, and I love going hunting, and so I just like spending time in the woods there.
What do you hunt when you're down there?
There are turkey and deer, and so I go deer hunting every year. I go to do deer gun season every year, so that's the one week a year that I make sure it's blocked off from me.
That sounds appropriate. It sounds like what my father-in-law does too. So,
right.
But what was one of the biggest challenges you found when you were building your tiny home?
Well, so it's at the very top of a hill, and so the biggest challenge was getting the supplies up there. I basically replicated what I did here. It's an 8x8 little tiny house cabin, and we put a stove in it. It's got two bunk beds that convert into like a little couch. It's rugged. It's super rugged. And getting the materials up the hill was the biggest challenge, because it's a huge hill, and I only had a gator with a buddy of mine had a trailer that I was able to borrow that was narrow enough to fit through, but wouldn't always make all the turns that we needed it to. Sure. So sometimes we'd have to lift up the trailer to get the wheels back on the tracks. So it was kind of crazy.
I feel like I'm watching one of those shows on Discovery or TLC or something.
That's what we were going for a little bit, I guess. Cool. It was fun.
That's fun.
It was fun with friends, so that was the cool part about it.
Yeah.
I'm picturing my son's video. He watches this guy in the middle of the jungle build a pool. So he just starts digging, and it's all in fast forward.
Oh, yeah,
so it seems like it takes an hour, but really it probably took days and days and days. But man, it's crazy what you can do when you actually
put your mind to
it. Put your mind to I'm building a tiny home, and you just figure out how to get the supplies up and how to build it and how to engineer it. Talking about engineering, did you get engineering, or is this something that you can kind of handle with your background in building?
Well, so I grew up doing woodworking with my grandfather a lot, and then I really enjoyed woodworking in high school. And then when I was in college, I worked for a guy for a while who was remodeling his house, and so he taught me quite a bit, about framing, and we were doing roofing. We did it all, electrical, all that stuff, and so I learned a little bit about everything. So I just know enough to be dangerous.
Learn by doing. It's the best way to do it.
Right.
Yeah. So it's it hasn't fallen down, so that's great. I count it as a win.
Major plus.
Yeah.
Major plus. Going back to, and sorry to jump around, but going back to that Airbnb. What got you into that kind of investing? Because not a lot of people like Airbnbs, because there's a lot more cleaning, there's a lot more turnover, there's a lot more financials, because
not quite
there's
as much stability.
Yeah, there's a lot more transactions.
Right.
So what interests you about Airbnb, or what pushed you to get into it?
Well, I actually bought the property along with my brother. And so we bought it because my grandparents owned the property for 30 years, and then they were selling it. And we really didn't want to see it leave the family. And so we decided to invest, in part because of nostalgia, I guess.
Yeah.
Which, again, probably not always a great reason, but I also saw a lot of potential there, because I really enjoy going down to this community. It's a small, little river town, and there are definitely, it's got its challenges for sure, just like any small community does these days. But there's a lot of people who are trying to change that, and it's a lot of there's so much history there, and just a lot of potential, I think. So the property also comes with 23 acres attached to it, and I just kind of saw that as a way that I might be able to leverage the property to rent to hunters and people want to have their own private park, basically. So that was kind of the reasoning. And then on top of all that, of course, we enjoy going to it as well. So
right.
We didn't want it to be a long-term rental where someone would basically shut us out of ever being able to see the property, because we bought it because we wanted to go there. So my brother's going there next week, and I go there quite frequently. Whenever it's empty, a lot of times I'll just pop down. So it's only 2 hours away. It's not that far.
Yeah, I mean, that's perfect. You're keeping something in the household that you want. You talk about that nostalgia aspect. Plus, it's something that you use. So why not also let other people use it and help pay down some of that debt with it? So I feel like that's a win-win. That's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've had a lot of luck with Airbnb, and I really enjoy it. I mean, doing it, communicating with guests and introducing other people. A lot of people have never been there, and so they get to see it. And there's a lot of cool history there. I mentioned earlier as the history teacher.
I was going to say it.
There's a lot of cool stuff. There's actually a park there, an Ohio historic park that's it's dedicated to John Rankin, and it was his home, and he was a Presbyterian minister who was a Underground Railroad conductor, and so his entire family was involved in the Underground Railroad and helping people escape slavery. It's actually the house where there's a story in Uncle Tom's Cabin that's based off of this woman who was a formerly enslaved person who just escaped to Ohio from Kentucky. So
that's cool.
There's some crazy history there. There's also John Parker, who was a formerly enslaved person who bought his freedom and then became an Underground Railroad conductor, and then also started all these had all these patents for all these different kinds of machines, because he became this really wealthy industrialist foundry owner. So, I mean, there's just so much cool history there.
That's intriguing. Even for me, who's not a history buff, who's not a history nerd, I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
So would you ever invest anywhere besides locally or besides in Ohio? Would you ever branch out to I don't know, your favorite vacation location?
Oh, you know what? I've said for years that my dream is to buy a place in Bosnia and Herzegovina. That is, it's a beautiful, beautiful country. It's got this amazing climate, and one of my favorite cities over there is Mostar. And it's this Mediterranean climate, so it's super warm there. And they have this beautiful river that runs through the middle of the city. It's like being in Bosnia itself. A lot of people describe it like Middle East meets Germany almost. And it's just this cool clash of cultures and amazing food. So that would definitely be the place I would want to invest for sure.
That's super interesting.
That would be some long distance investing right there.
It would, and I'm trying to figure it out. I've looked seriously into it, and I've not figured out yet how to do it, but one of these days I'm going to, I hope.
I totally understand. My brother-in-law and my sister are dying to perhaps even purchase their sole home overseas right now. They're looking at Italy, I think. Italy or France. So it's interesting to talk to investors or potential investors who are looking to purchase property abroad. That to me just seems so scary.
I can't even get out of Rockchalk County. So you're talking about going international. I'm like, oh no. Where am I going to find a plumber?
Yeah, I know. Google
I mean, you make friends over there, and then they know a person, and then you're good. So it's fine.
Of course, they know the best people because everybody who is
Right.
local knows the best person. It's not what Google tells you.
It's true.
Exactly.
That's true. Is there any, like, what I liked about that Airbnb, the more and more you talk about it, one, I want an Airbnb, so I'm already interested. But two, like, you went into it with, all right, maybe this isn't the most income producing property, but there's so much potential. And then you went that extra step with what is that potential? Renting out to hunters, the Airbnb aspect. I mean, there could be something down the road where you parcel off some of it and sell it. I don't know if that's in it, but there's so much more potential in it than just face value. And if you can get creative like that, anything can turn out. And it seems like with that creativity, that property it nailed it, is what it sounds like.
I mean, it's been, it's definitely been worth it, I think. Excuse me. It's been what we wanted it to be, which was a place that we could go and enjoy that would hopefully kind of break even,
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of the goal, and I'm excited for this year because we'll actually have a full year to see data on, because we only bought it last July, so the winter is kind of tough because it's up a very steep driveway, but the summer months it tends to do pretty well renting out, so we'll see how it goes, I guess.
And even in a small town it rents out. I mean, one of the cool things is it's close to a lot of cool places in Kentucky. So there's Maysville, Kentucky, which I like to go to, and they have a cool old downtown area. There's this nice restaurant there on the water, and there's a really great Korean restaurant. And then there's also
a Korean restaurant in Kentucky?
Yeah.
Oh my god! It took me a second to actually click and make sense, and I was like, "Hold on, that sounds delicious."
Yeah, it's a great little Korean restaurant, and then, which is more, makes more sense, I guess, is a distillery in Maysville called Old Pope, and I love going over there because they, they're a small batch distillery that you can go and visit, and you can get samples and everything, and then you can leave with a bottle of whatever you want to get. So there's that. There's a winery down there. There's a brewery down there. So there's just a lot of, you can tell where my mind is at, I guess. It's Friday evening.
Hey, I know. I was just thinking, I'm like, just keep talking. I'm just gonna go into the fridge and grab my bottle.
Exactly.
Speaking of Kentucky,
yeah.
At the distillery, I heard that the limestone in Kentucky is like prime for distillery or for like bourbon or whiskey.
Yeah.
So I figured that there was going to be a lot down there.
Oh,
I don't know.
I didn't even think about that. I'm not in the know with the alcohol. I just know that I like to drink it. So.
I'm by no means like this big
sorry.
distillery, like knowledgeable person. I think I went through, because I had played baseball in college. We went to Kentucky and we went around. We couldn't drink that day. But they started talking about like why there's a lot of distilleries in Kentucky, and that was their reason. I didn't know if it was real or not, but
I mean, who knows? That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I do have to tell you one quick story that's really cool, which is that the other direction towards Cincinnati, if you go that way 15 minutes, cross the river on this little ferry boat in your car, and then you get to Augusta, Kentucky. That is where George Clooney's parents live, and I met them at a bar one night.
Shut up! That's amazing.
Yeah, George Clooney's parents, Nick and Nina. And Nick was like a radio broadcaster and TV host, from Cincinnati, and so like you recognize him right away. And then George Clooney's mom, Nina, runs her own little antique store, and you can go in and meet his mom, and so it's pretty cool.
I feel like that whole Clooney family would be very fun to hang out with.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we just kind of invited ourselves to drinks one night.
Oh my goodness. That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you
Yes, sir.
have like where are you going this year? Like, do you have plans to buy more properties, or is it kind of on a scale where if an opportunity pops up, you take it, or
I would say actually I'm probably done for now at the moment, trying to get more properties. Just raising the capital. I've gotten one of the reasons I guess that I wanted to invest in more properties was, to maybe one day be able to go part time and manage those. And so I've kind of realized that I need to kind of get more properties in order to be able to do that. And so I'm going to have to keep the full-time job, which was part of the reason why I went with the property management company, so that I was able to continue to get, an additional property, but keep working. So I don't know that I'll, get any in the near future, but it's definitely something that, I've always got in the back of my mind.
yeah. And what I like, and hopefully our viewers see this as well, is you don't have to be that big real estate
Right.
foot to the pedal. Like, we're going to get 10 doors this year,
For
and
sure.
this is our cap rate. You can do it on the side.
Trust me, when I decide to invest, it'll be on the side.
Yeah.
I cannot open another business that is that scary. Like, that's scary to me, is to own
Right.
properties. It's like, this is all of my money. It's all right here.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
too nerve-wracking for me. I let you do that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. No, but that casual investor mindset where, hey, you had the opportunity to do it. Everything that you looked at kind of made sense. You get a little, side cash, side wealth, along with the job that you enjoy. Like, it seems like you've kind of created this.
You're winning all around.
Yeah.
Both worlds.
We're certainly trying. I will say too, one thing that helps, I think, is the background now that I've gotten in mediation. We actually have, my boss would want me to mention this, even though I'm off hours. We do have a landlord-tenant mediation program.
Oh, cool.
And so, I would encourage a lot of people who are thinking of eviction, or people who want to, maybe they don't want to pay rent because their landlord isn't fixing something.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe check out mediation first as an opportunity before you make any, decisions about that, because it can save a lot of money in the long run. Particularly here in Dayton, we have actually a program that is tied to the courts, and so people get, free mediation services as part of their filing with the courts if there's an eviction. So
I never even thought about that. So do you have to file with the courts before applying for mediation, or can you apply for mediation without having to file a judgment in the courts?
yeah, you can certainly go to mediation first. Yeah, you don't have to file for.
Do all municipalities have mediation like you're saying from Dayton, or is that
No.
just every once in a while?
Yeah, it's definitely something that is every once in a while. I think we're really lucky here in Dayton that they've invested in this, service, and we have a free community mediation program here in the city. So if there are any neighbor conflicts or anything like that, people can go to mediation. Like, ones we see all the time, or people build a fence, and they accidentally build it on someone else's property, and so.
Rather than calling the cops immediately about something, you can just
Exactly.
go to mediation and have a neutral party work it out with you guys.
Exactly.
That's
And we,
cool.
we do those services now because of Zoom. We do them across the country. So anybody listening could give us a call.
That's great. Do you want to leave the number here for us?
Yeah, sure. It's DaytonMediationCenter.org is the website, and the number is 937-333-2345.
And we will make sure to leave that in the show notes. We have
awesome.
so many
Yeah.
history things to put in the show notes of this one.
We'll see.
But we'll add that one into the show notes just in case. And I'm glad you touched on that, because I'd forgotten in the beginning of the show. I wanted to touch on that. The background in mediation, I feel like, would be so great when you're dealing with tenants, because you kind of already are in that mindset of like, hey, we're going to try to figure this out one way or another. We don't need to go to either extreme.
We see it all the time. What happens is, people will decide, oh, I'm not going to pay rent, and then they get evicted because they didn't pay rent, and they, instead of putting it in escrow, just withheld rent. And don't do that. If you're listening, don't do that.
Don't
Put
do
it in.
that. I love it.
Not that that's legal advice. I have to clarify, but
Yeah,
yeah.
Right.
true.
I'm
Very
glad
true.
that you put the disclaimer in
Yes,
there.
Thank you. Sorry about my little tangent. That just
No.
gets right underneath my skin.
Yep.
Yeah, but that background has to be so helpful
For sure.
with your long-term tenants and your Airbnb tenants, because obviously more turnover, more chances for problems. But I mean, with the mindset you have, I'm sure a lot of those big problems that people think are, oh my God, what's going to happen, you can kind of take in and, I don't know, think about it.
Not knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it certainly helps, I think, and, I think so much about the rental property businesses, it comes down to communication, because, if there's going to be a tenant that's going through, some rough stuff at work, and they know they're going to be late, but, they're going to get you the rent, then, communicating that with your landlord, it goes so far, I think, and just being able to, understand, okay, they're going to be late this month, but next month it'll be fine.
Right. Have you seen a lot of that payment issue through the whole COVID thing?
Yeah.
And
That's what I was going to ask, too.
Yeah, I've certainly seen that, I think that's had an impact on some people for sure, and we've seen it in mediation quite a bit too. So here in Dayton, there's actually a program through the county that they kind of redirected some county funds to help provide some mediation services throughout the county for landlord-tenant disputes.
That's good.
Yeah.
that's definitely an aspect of real estate that's not as...
I'm really happy I'm not in that side of real estate.
Yeah, I mean, it's at least around here for the most part, and I'm guessing across the country, it's, all right, landlord not doing something, tenant files a lawsuit, and vice versa. There's no, there's mediation
never,
isn't talked about, isn't under the spotlight, isn't really looked on as an option.
For any business, though, any business, I'm going to sue you because you cut my dog's hair too short, or whatever it is. It's
I hope
always,
that wasn't a thing.
Oh no, it was a thing.
Oh, I've seen it all.
Yeah. So
What's this? All right, I know client confidentiality.
Yes.
But what's the weirdest dispute? Can you share it on air? Is it going to be PG enough?
I probably can't share the weirdest, because we do all kinds of stuff. I do divorce mediation, I do parenting time, visitation mediation, so I hear a lot of things.
Oh my goodness. Well, maybe off air you can tell us.
I will say though, for people who are going to mediation, my only plea would be, maybe put on a shirt sometimes.
Oh no!
Stop it! Oh my goodness!
No.
You never know what you'll see.
Really? I did hear through this whole COVID thing, they started doing hearings over Zoom. And one lady, I don't know if she was in Florida or California, but flipped up her laptop on the beach in her swimsuit. It was in her court hearing, sunbathing.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
And it was
That's
super weird.
That's pretty bold.
At least
Right?
she didn't have a dog face on.
Oh, a filter?
Yeah, a filter on her face.
Yeah, that's the next step.
Well, we all heard about what was it? Was it a lawyer that was a cat or a dog?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
was
I didn't hear
great.
about that one.
I loved that one.
That was hilarious.
Well, good tip.
Can't even.
Good tip. Wear a shirt to mediation
Wear a shirt.
if
you need to.
Yes,
my
please.
goodness.
You're not even asking for a tie. Just a shirt.
Just a
Oh,
shirt.
no. Just the shirt is great. Yeah.
Maybe shoes, but we're not even requiring shoes at this point. Shirts.
So it's only midsection up. Just
That's
a shirt.
funny.
That's very cool. And I like the show because we've had, I think the last 3 shows we've had,
Investors.
I'll call them full-time investors. That was their career. That is where they're going. And for our audience to keep hearing that, sometimes it's it's too much.
Yeah.
So I know that there's a lot of listeners out here that are, I mean, like Natasha, that are on the fence.
I am so on the fence.
So to
Yeah.
see you kind of, you keep your full-time job, you want your full-time job. Yes, it'd be nice if you can cut to half, but it's not a need. So for you to go about it at the pace and the speed and the comfort level that you're going at, what would you give in terms of one tip for our viewers that are on that kind of threshold to just give them some comfort to go at their own speed or to go what makes them comfortable?
Yeah, I guess I would say, kind of play to your strengths, So for me, that was looking, I knew the community that I was investing in pretty well. And I also had some carpentry skills, so I knew that I could do a little bit of labor to try to increase the property value a little bit. And, I was able to kind of leverage those things. And then, the fact that I had a friend already interested in the property and, I would go for it, I guess, would be my advice. I would definitely, though, urge people to, consider, do you want that 3 a.m. phone call that the water just, bursted and you have to deal with that now? Or do you want a property management company to deal with that? And that's something, for at least 3 of the properties, I'm comfortable kind of managing that. But I guess I didn't anticipate as fully how much, taking on 4 properties within one with the quadplex, I guess. So, that's probably on me, and I probably, I would definitely urge people to consider, is that what you want to do or not?
Yeah.
We won't hold it against you, but I can completely understand. Like, I do not miss early morning phone calls or late night phone calls for any circumstance. So I can only imagine if there was an emergency phone call at 2 in the morning. I would not want to deal with that.
Yeah, but I mean, and that doesn't have to stop you either, because you can use property management company, and I still think it's a really good return on investment, particularly if you understand the community that you're investing in. So it's probably going to give you a higher return than a stock pick that you choose. I mean, unless you figured out GameStop early on. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Don't we all wish we could foresee the future like that? Oh.
Right.
But when I go at looking at properties, and I didn't just create this is something that was told to me. Someone said, when you invest in a property, always factor in property management. Mm-hmm. Like, no matter what, even if you're going to manage it yourself, factor in property management, because when you even if you go at one house per year, one house every 5 years, in a decade or in 2 decades, you're going to have so many properties, and you might be in a different life point where you're not going to want to manage them.
Yeah.
So if you create the buffer when you buy it and when you have it and you're managing your own, then to flip the switch and hire property management, it's not like, okay, how much money am I losing? In the beginning, you already factor that in. So just a tip for people that are getting in that are like, yeah, I'll manage it just like you. I'll manage it all myself. And then something tips where, all right, that's too much and it's taking too much of my time. Property management, step in. I like that. That was good advice.
Awesome. Good.
Well, I get cut off at an hour by Natasha.
He gets his warning signals, and then he gets his stricter warning signals, and then it's like you cut the throat. Just you gotta.
So I got my warning signal. So I'm gonna let Natasha ask the last question, even though I feel like I know the answer.
I know. So typically our last question is, what's been your favorite either DIY project or favorite project that you've accomplished? But, I mean, this whole show has kind of been about your DIY projects.
That's funny. I'll tell you what. I'll give you a different one.
Okay.
Which is that the property that we've, got the Airbnb at down in Ripley is actually, it has a bunch of maple trees. And so recently I was able to tap the maple trees and make maple syrup, which was awesome.
Is it so delicious?
It really is, yeah.
Amazing.
Homemade maple syrup is better.
You know, there's been a bunch of people in our community too that I see that are tapping their maple trees. So it'd be interesting to do a side by side comparison with your your A store brand maple syrup, your B like high end maple syrup that you buy that's like I don't even know how
Ooh, a
much.
blind test.
And your C, your homemade tapped maple syrup. Just like do a blind taste test to see which one comes out on top.
I would love to see how it stands up for sure.
Awesome. Well, that was a really cool DIY project. I like that. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, how can people watch your YouTube videos? Is there a link or is there do you have a name for your channel?
Yeah, if you search for My Neck of the Woods, Arch Grieve, then you should be able to find it. There's also a popular song, I think, called My Neck of the Woods, which will probably come up, but that's a good way to find me. And then, I usually include a link to my Airbnb within the episodes, and the most recent episode was actually about making the maple syrup. So if you want to know how I made it, then you can check it out.
Awesome. We'll have to put a link to your Airbnbs in our show notes too, so people can reserve their Airbnb stay with you too going forward.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
For sure.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on the show. I think our viewers are going to get a lot out of it.
Yeah.
And a lot of fascinating history that I get to go home and nerd out about.
And you were just super down to earth. So
Yeah.
it's been very much appreciated. We've loved this conversation.
Well, I loved being on. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. We'll talk soon.
All right. Take
Thanks
care.
so much, guys.
Have a good weekend.
Bye.